the Real Estate U podcast with Lettiann.
Welcome back to Real Estate U with Lettiann, Season 5. This season, we are in the kitchen. Welcome to my kitchen. And I'd like to welcome Ben Fetzer to my kitchen as well. Ben, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Ben is with Fresh Start right here in Kansas City. He's a mold remediator, right?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk about mold today. So many persons have questions about mold. Even buyers and sellers think they know mold. How can you know mold? I don't know, unless you're like in the environmental industry. But not all mold is created equal. Is that right?
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, there's some that it's okay, this is concerning mold, and the other mold might look the same to like the regular person, but you just bleach it out and you're good to go. So
we talk a lot about toxic mold.
Okay.
Toxic mold is almost always going to be caused by a large amount of water in an organic environment. Most our homes are made out of wood and they have lots of organic material. So when you have a water leak and it's prolonged in any amount of time, that's when you have the type of mold. Stachybotrys would be the common type of word. Stachybotrys? Yep. Okay. And that is the one type of mold that is often referred to as black mold. It doesn't have to be black.
Okay.
And that's not always accurate to say black mold is toxic mold, but the two are usually associated with each other.
Is that the worst type of mold, the Stachybotrys?
I would say yes, at least it's the worst common known type of mold.
What can that do to a person? I mean, if people are, I'm allergic to mold, or I need to know if that house had mold. I mean, if someone maybe breathed in the spores, like what can happen to someone? I know you're not a doctor, but I mean, when someone says I'm allergic, what happens to them?
Well, there's two different things. Sensitivity, high sensitivity to mold can be a variety of types and not even in very high volumes.
Is that when they breathe it or touch it, or?
Probably both.
Okay.
I would say breathing is more common, but
because those spores are in the air, or okay.
And the mold can actually be on clothing or different things. Somebody who's highly sensitive to it will literally throw away clothes if they've been in a moldy environment.
Wow. So it can grow and spread, and we may not even see it.
To some extent,
like
yes.
If it gets on clothes and things?
Those are rare people. 1%, I would guess, or even less, are that sensitive to mold.
Yeah.
But when you talk about toxic mold, that will affect almost everybody. And it will be something that, for me, if I'm in an environment where I know there's mold, I don't have PPE, something happens, it's not with me, or I just kind of get surprised, I'll start to notice a headache. I'll start to notice foggy, my mind is foggy, sore throat, you feel like you've got a cold coming on, and you'll know it in 10 to 15 minutes.
Wow, within just being
at least my body.
Okay, wow. Have you been out around any today? Because we're standing really close together right now.
Not today.
Okay, good. Good. I have a lot of other questions about mold, one of which is, and I want to get to my zucchini pancakes this morning too, but mold between walls is curious because no one knows it's there. If you don't know there's a leak. But then I also want to ask you, how can the layperson, the regular human, just tell the difference between, oh, you just need to bleach that out and wipe it? But we'll get to that. I want to grab a copy of my book. We're going to be making zucchini pancakes today from my book, Homes That Cook. If you'd like a copy of this book, please go to Amazon.com and search Homes That Cook. Also, if you're enjoying the recipes from season 5, please visit our website, Lettiann.com/season 5 recipes. There you can download all of the recipes for free and have them to use. And Ben, you can do that as well. I'm going to get started on my zucchini pancakes. So first I've got 2 eggs that I'm going to whisk up here. I have 3 medium-sized zucchinis that I've shredded with some shredded carrots that you then sprinkle salt on this in a colander in the sink, let it sit for 10 minutes, and then squeeze out all of the moisture, which I've done previously because our show is just 20 minutes. So I'm gonna put the shredded zucchini and carrots in there. There's already a splash of salt in there. I've got 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice.
Smells good.
Ooh.
Smells fresh.
Good. Nice and garlicky, yes. I then have 1 chopped green onion, 2 cloves of garlic, minced fresh garlic. I'm now gonna take our, that's our wet batter there. I'm gonna take our dry ingredients. So I have some flour, fresh grated Parmesan cheese, but any Parmesan cheese is fine. I've got about a half a teaspoon of black pepper and some dried basil. So I'm just gonna spin this around here. Ben, do you like to cook?
I like to barbecue.
Ah, what's your favorite thing to barbecue?
Anything on the pellet grill.
Oh, nice.
Brisket, ribs, chicken, hamburgers, all of it tastes good.
Awesome.
I've never had what you're making, so I'm excited to see.
Good. This is great for a brunch or an appetizer or a lunch. So these are savory zucchini pancakes. So I've got the wet ingredients all going on here. Ben, that drawer behind you to your left, you'll see a spatula with a red end. Next one down. Spatula with the red end.
This guy?
Perfect, yes. Thank you so much.
You bet.
So I'm going to just put a little bit of olive oil in our pan here that's already been heated up. So while I'm going to just incorporate the dry and wet ingredients and make a batter. And while I start frying the zucchini pancakes, Ben, tell us if anyone, how do we tell the difference between mold that one can just bleach off and do they look different, and or do we need an expert to tell us? I was showing a house last weekend and we noticed evidently a leak from a bathroom upstairs, but on the ceiling, it looks like there was a patch, but then we saw a line of black, and my buyers thought, oh my gosh, mold is growing right there. How would they know that?
It would be difficult to know in that situation. When you have leaks and you're dealing with drywall or building materials, if the leak in the ceiling, for example, is coming from above, starting to affect the ceiling drywall, it's likely going to be much worse on the other side or the top side of the drywall than it would be from below. You may be able to visibly see a yellow stain.
Gotcha.
You may see darker discoloration, which means there's been more water over a longer period of time. And if you see that from below, you can always assume it's going to be worse on top.
Because really, why else would there be a black stain on the ceiling, right?
Right.
So you're saying the majority of that would be where we can't see it.
That would be hidden mold, yeah.
Gotcha.
And in that setting, you would not want to try wiping it off.
Oh, okay.
You could, wipe small amounts of it from below, but your bigger issue is going to be on top of the drywall, which is why we would recommend some demo or taking the drywall down and sealing it up. It's all done in a controlled remediation environment so that you're not cross-contaminating those spores into the rest of the property. And so that would be a real remediation scenario. If you have discoloration with any kind of darkness to it, then your odds are that you have mold on top of the drywall.
Yeah, good to know. And that would be a situation where someone should call you, right?
Exactly.
Don't take care of it yourself. Don't try to wipe it off, because then you're literally under there and that stuff is falling on you.
Correct, yeah. And I would say the EPA is a good reference point. They recommend professional mold remediation at 10 square feet and larger.
So tell me what that means.
So if you have 10 square feet of actual fungi growth or mold growth, then, or let's say it's 5 square feet. Now, I haven't seen them say anything that endorses maintenance guys or homeowners to remove the mold if it's only 2 or 3 square feet.
Yeah.
But they do give you a reference point in recommending pros at the point of 10 square feet. So if you have a 10-foot wall and it's 3 inches high, you know, if it goes longer than 10 feet down that wall, then you've exceeded, in theory, the 10 square feet.
So maybe like if a basement flooded or something like that and water has sat for a while and you can literally see it for more than 10 feet?
Then that's at least exceeding the EPA's recommendation.
Gotcha.
So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't get remediation if you've only got a 2 or 3 square feet, because you could have a small amount of contamination, but it's jet black, it's 3-dimensional, it's fuzzy, and it's toxic.
So that's what someone should look for, all of those things you just said.
Correct, yeah. That's when you're going to know that and it will have an odor. It is going to be putting off an odor.
Because people have said, oh, you know, pull your mask down. Can you smell any mold? And I guess if you really, I mean, I have to get close enough to it, right? I had a buyer that literally got on the ground and stuck her nose right up to it. I don't know. And then she stood up and goes, I don't think that was wise. So you're saying don't do that. I mean,
no.
Yeah.
You can, if you're in the room and you detect a different odor, a dirt or earthy odor, smells like mulch.
Yeah, okay.
This time of year, just going outside, I can smell mold, and that's from probably the flower beds with mulch and different things that are actually active right now.
Right.
And there's active mold. Mold is essentially to break down leaves, tree branches, organic material out in the ecosystem. It's breaking it down so it can be basically useful. So that's what mold is for in the ecosystem.
So it's a necessary, we need to live with it, but we don't want it in our house.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, you don't want it affecting your indoor air.
Got it. What's the craziest thing you've seen, Ben? Besides
Well, recently
this
we've
episode
had...
of this podcast. And what we're smelling now is a lot of garlic, right? So we've got some marinara sauce going. We've got our zucchini pancakes going. And these are just about finishing up. But you've probably seen a lot of, I mean, what's the worst case scenario you've seen on a job?
I've seen 6,000 square feet houses that had to be completely gutted.
Like remove all the drywall down to the studs?
Everything. Yeah.
What happened in that home that would happen?
So it was vacant. There was not a winterizing that was done. It was a foreclosure. The bank didn't get there in time to winterize it. Pipes blew. Leaking happened when thaw finally occurred, and then the entire property was flooded and left wet for months.
Oh my word.
So by the time you get there, everything is toxic, mold everywhere.
I'm so surprised it wasn't even a tear down, like a tear down.
It was very close, and it's hard to make that determination when it's time to just condemn the property. But we went ahead and did remediation.
Yeah.
And that was probably the worst house in a residential setting we've seen.
So if any of you, I'm going to turn these down and they're just about ready, but if any of you have any questions for Ben, one of which you can reach him on his website, moldkansascity.com, moldkansascity.com. But we at our podcast, Real Estate U with Lettiann, we appreciate and look forward to getting your questions, comments, or even if you have some questions for Ben, please email us at realestateu, like university, realestateu with Lettiann at lettiann.com. We look forward to getting back with you, answering your questions, and maybe you want to share a recipe with us. Maybe you have a story about mold. So I'm learning about mold. I won't pretend to know anything about it, but I'm grateful to have you here to tell us about this. May I ask you something else? I'm going to plate these pancakes up, but may I say you're a foster parent?
Yes.
Do you mind just sharing a little bit about the beauty of, it's just a beautiful thing, and there are so many foster families and people wanting to foster. Any input or tips you might share with our viewers about that?
Well, it's definitely a rewarding experience. It's difficult. Children in foster care have gone through a lot of hard things, so you're going to help them process a lot of that. Some of it is definitely trauma, and we've definitely enjoyed the entire process, not every moment of being foster parents or adopting inevitably, but I would definitely recommend getting involved in some capacity. You can babysit for foster parents who are, overwhelmed with stuff. That's called respite care. That's how my wife and I got started. We started in respite care. We started slow and started small, and then inevitably got our first foster placement, and then inevitably adopted my daughter. So I definitely recommend it.
I love hearing these stories. My niece and her husband, they were foster parents. They fostered 2 children. They ended up adopting those 2 and found out they had 2 more siblings. Unbeknownst to them, the ones they adopted had 2 younger siblings. They ended up adopting all 4 kids. That's like having 4 kids at one time. God love them. I love those kids, my nieces and nephews. So a shout out to the Wellsteads. It's a beautiful thing. I too am adopted, so I love these stories. I already have some goosebumps going. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Definitely.
Ben, are you ready to try some of these with me?
Sure.
All right. So we have zucchini pancakes marinara. Just any marinara sauce that you'd like to put on top of that. I'm going to give you that, Ben.
Okay, thank you.
And I will, let's see. Got lots of garlic going on. It smells so good. Take that little crispy part there. Let's give it a try.
Tell me when.
When? It's hot, Ben. Be careful.
That's good.
I told myself last night, take smaller bites so I can talk, but that didn't just happen. This is really good. Ben, I want to thank you so much for being on our show today.
My pleasure.
So Fresh Start, moldkansascity.com. You can reach Ben Fetzer. Fetzer. Thank you so much. Any last words or advice to anyone who might have concerns about mold, or because there are people that are very concerned about it when they're looking at houses and whatnot. But the surprise when it's like between the sheetrock and the outside wall, that's stuff we and even inspectors can't find.
Yeah, sometimes it is very hard to find it. But if you do have active leaking or something that you know about, try to stop it as soon as you can, whether that's turning off your water or trying to deal with the actual source of the water, but also consult a professional. We have a lot of resources on my website at moldkansascity.com, a lot of things we've written. We try to help with just getting information out there so you can navigate through whatever scenario you're dealing with, and then give us a call if you want some hands-on help. We can come and do an inspection or an assessment and get you pointed in the right direction.
Beautiful. Ben Fetzer with Fresh Start. Thank you so much for watching Season 5, Real Estate U with Lettiann. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, we're going to finish our zucchini pancakes.
The Real Estate U podcast with Lettiann.